one thing. Hello Space Cats, it's very excitable Jules here with episode 7 of Make a Picture Book. In this series I have been documenting how I go about my own book projects, and you have been following this sometimes very lengthy process. If you've missed out on any of them, make sure you check out this playlist up here, which has got all of the episodes in it. I recommend that you start on episode 1 because I try and chuck in nuggets of information that are really going to help you. It sometimes feels like my whole existence is made up of story. I've made so many videos about bookmaking and illustrating, so if that's something that you've got a dream about to do, then make sure you ping that subscribe and bell, and I will do everything I can to bring you what you need. Here is a very quick recap of what's happened so far. Coming up with an idea and then writing the first draft of the story and doing some thumbnail drawings. First colour study. Why I changed the format. Some character studies, but this time of a few more of the characters. Full page layouts. And then where the text needs to go. I can't put it off any longer. It's time to make the dummy book. When I had got the layouts as right as I possibly could, I scanned them all into my computer. I made sure I either rubbed out the lines where the text should go, or in some cases I redrew them because of other considerations. Once scanned, I opened up Photoshop and made sure that I got the right page size, including the bleed. If you're not sure what a bleed means, then make sure you leave a comment for me and I'll see about making a video on just that. The good thing about Photoshop is that you can add text over the top of your sketches and manipulate it until it has the right feel and look. I have used 2 different typefaces, Tahoma for the majority of the narrative because it's easy to read and understand, and Whimsy TT to bring attention to certain words or phrases. I would advise a note of caution here. If you are going to use more than one typeface, just don't go crazy. Don't use hundreds of them because it's going to make a really messy feel to your story, and also it might be really hard to read. And on that point, make sure that the typeface you do choose is an easy to understand typeface to look at. A good person to have a look at is if you look at Lauren Child's books. She uses text and typefaces brilliantly. It took quite some time to repeat this process with all 64 pages, dropping the text in on top of the illustrations. And I did some editing along the way. Sometimes words seem to look different when they're on the page with your illustrations. And they seem to have a different sort of relationship with the book once it starts looking like a real book. And then it was time to print everything out, trim it down to size and glue everything together. So this is PVA glue with a very fine nib to it, and I'm just going to give it a good shake and then put some around the edges. Having a fine nib like this is a good idea because if you get lots of glue all over, you tend to find a lot of buckling. And there we go. I'm going to do that for the rest of the book, and then we will catch up when I've done that because there's a lot to do. It's really important to make sure that you weight your dummy book down once you've glued it and leave it overnight to dry. I just wanted to show you quickly, before I show you the inside of the book, the front cover illustration and how it's represented by the printer that I've got when it prints out. The scan is quite good, but when it prints out it's not so good in terms of the colour. So, you know, it depends which sort of printer you buy as to whether or not, and also what paper you get and what ink, as to whether or not you get a really good representation of your colours in your printouts from your own machine. But when they do print out at the printers, they are much better and truer. Here we go. This is, again, I haven't trimmed the top and bottom, so you have to imagine that there's about a centimetre or so off of the top and the bottom. But this is what it looks like. It's now glued overnight, and I think this is good enough to send out to the publisher that I've got in mind for it, and see what they think. When you're sending out a dummy book, most of it can be in black and white, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, if you look at this, I've got my typeface is about, I think about 16 or 18 point there, and I've dropped it back down here, so obviously that's a mistake, and that's something that I will definitely rectify when I come to do the final pieces of artwork. If you've done a couple of colour spreads, then you could include those if you want to print them out as colour copies. Otherwise, you could just submit some colour copies of your artwork loose. And there we go. So that's 60 something pages. You've seen a lot of these. And then the final page, I will just show you quickly, is a spread of all of the friends enjoying themselves at the party, and then just a final, the end, with a little winking Vincent. So this is now almost ready. I want to complete some colour spreads to be able to show properly what my technique is going to be, although I'm pretty sure that it'll be very similar to the first book. But once I've done that, then I will be sending it off to a publisher to see if it's the sort of thing that they might want to publish.
If you'd like further artist tutorials, I have a variety of short courses that will help you. There are real-time sessions looking at painting, drawing and marker pens, among others. And if you're keen on producing your own book, there is a more in-depth course on what you need to know about self-publishing a book with illustrations. And that covers making key decisions, how to make layouts and dummy books, rhythm and pacing, as well as several tutorials on illustrating your book, and a look at the tech. You can either hop over to my website or join me on Patreon for more information. Go on, give it a go!
Next time I'm going to make one of the illustrations in my book to send off to the publisher so that they can get a really good feel of what the illustration is really going to look like, as home printers quite often are not true to colour. I can't wait for that, so please join me then. I will see you next time. Nanu nanu!